This is a history of the video cameras that I've purchased in the past. The one on the left I got in 1995. The one in the middle I got in 2005. And the one on the far right I purchased in 2020, which is classified as a high-def camera. And since I'm using this camera to film this, you're not going to see this camera again throughout the course of this video. When I purchased my newest camera, I also bought this 64 gigabyte micro disc, which can give me about 16 hours of recording time on this tiny little disc. I've actually never opened this up because I've been using a 16 gigabyte micro disc, which serves me just fine, gives me about 4 hours of recording time, and that seems to serve all my needs. When I'm done with the video, I pop this disc out of the camera and I put it into a card reader. More specifically, I use this micro SD card reader, which slides into this slot, and then this side is a USB-A, and that slides into the port here, and I can then transfer it to my computer, which is fairly old. It's a 2010 MacBook. On this folder I've stored my most recent videos from the camera. After a few months I try to transfer them to an external hard drive for long-term storage. Every time I start or stop the record mode, I end up getting another one of these video segments on the SD drive. So then what I want to do is I want to merge them into one continuous video and edit out what I don't want. And so I open up a specific application, which is the iMovie file. Once the iMovie file is open, I select New Project, and then I name it. Then I select Import Movies, and then I go to the files that I just showed you in the folder with all my camera movie segments. And then starting from the bottom, I highlight the segments that I want to transfer to this iMovie program. And then by clicking Import, it sends these files to the iMovie program. It takes a while to import these files. Usually if it's 6 minutes of files, it takes about 3 minutes to import them into this window. And then once it's imported them into this window, usually I select the entire file so that it appears in the section above. And if I've got 3 segments, I go back and I select the next file and drag it up here. And then I select the third file and drag it up here. And then I go through from the beginning and I start playing it back, which appears on this window. And then I cut out the pauses in my narration and eliminate parts of the video that are not useful. Once it's all done, I reviewed it and it looks good. The next step is to share the video, which then, when I click Export Movie, it tells me where it wants to send it. I can change it to a different location, and then I click Export, and then it takes a while to make it. If I've got a 6-minute movie that I'm going to export, it takes about 12 minutes to send the completed movie to the folder where I've selected it. When I have a completed video, if I want to make a DVD out of it or play it on a larger screen, one way is to put it on a thumb drive such as this. This is a 16 gigabyte thumb drive. And as an example, I've put a number of my biking videos on this. It has a AV output which ends up in these three AV plugs, which can plug into a TV set or a DVD recorder or some other electronic device. I can then navigate this to the files, which gets me to the USB device. Now this is an MP4 player, so I have USB on this USB device. I have MP4 files which are of videos I previously shot, and so what I can do then is to play these to the TV screen or to a DVD recorder. I'm going to try a biking excursion and see how it goes. The first camera I'd gotten, which is on the left, seems like it weighs like 5 pounds or more. It records images on a compact VHS tape, and this tape, once finished, can then be ejected from the camera, and it slid into a sort of an adapter, and that adapter was the size of a VHS tape, and this would slide then into a VHS player, which you could play directly on the VHS player to a TV set. It also had a AV out port, which is another way using a cable to play the videos that's on a tape that's still in the camera. The next camera I got would record to a DV cassette. The DV cassette was smaller in size than the previous VHS tape, and that would fit inside the camera. You could then eject the DV cassette and put in a new one so you could continue recording, because it would have like 90 minutes maximum recording length. Then if you wanted to transmit what was on the internal cassette, there's 3 different ports here that could be used to transmit the information and video out. I commonly use the bottom port here for AV out. The recording medium for my newest camera is then this microdisc. This is the 64 gigabyte version, which could probably record about 16 hours. I typically use the 16 gigabyte version, which gets me about 4 hours of recording in my usual recording mode. The newest camera comes with this USB cord as a way of charging the camera. The camera has a USB-A cord as part of the handle, and when it's time to charge, you can simply plug the USB-A into this port. Another way of charging the battery or maintaining its power during use is by one of these batteries. You plug the USB-A port into this battery and just sort of hang it off to the side, and it'll provide additional power during a video filming if the camera battery is getting ready to run out of power. So I've used this on a number of occasions, like when I've got a bike video that's running over 2 hours, I'll pull over and plug in this battery and continue on with my trip. My newest video camera has a viewing screen that's about 1 1/4 inches high by 2 1/4 inches wide. Additionally, it has a couple of ports on the outside of the camera. One is a mini HDMI port, which expands to a full-size HDMI port, which can then be plugged into a TV monitor so you can see exactly what you're filming. On the opposite side of the camera is a different type of cable, which has the familiar AV cables, which could be plugged into a different sort of connection to transmit the AV information. Instead of getting a GoPro for my bicycle helmet, I adapted the helmet and made a special bracket to hold the camera. A 1/4-20 bolt going through the helmet. I designed this little bracket to hold the older camera as well as the newer camera being perhaps 1/3 the weight. It's much easier to deal with, but I can go either way with it, taking a video of a bike trip in process. This is a mirror image of my newest camera, which I got in 2020. I was using the same 16 gigabyte SD card. For quite a while I would use it, I would erase it, I would use it, I would erase it, I would use it, I would erase it. And I started getting these defects in the video, and it would also give defects in the audio. And I was trying to figure out, why is this happening? And what I eventually figured out was, as the media keeps getting reused and erased and reused and erased, eventually it starts developing these sorts of defects in the media. And it was a simple matter of replacing it. So I went out to get a new 16 gigabyte microdisc, and they didn't have them. But they had 32 gigabyte microdiscs. In fact, when I bought that card I just showed you, it had 3 of these little 32 gigabyte cards in it, and I started doing the same thing. I was using the first disc over and over again, and eventually I started getting the same sort of defects. So I think it happens in the erasure process that it erases it, it gets defects with repeated use. So right now I'm on the second of these cards, and you know, a 32 gigabyte holds about 8 hours of recording, and so far I haven't filled up the 8 hours yet. I just keep on adding new files to the end of it, and eventually when I erase it, I suspect I'm going to start getting the same sort of video defects like this during playback. So then it'll be time to start on the third disc, and then buy more. Just the media is so cheap. It was like 15 bucks for these 3 micro SD cards, and they last a long time. And so that was the cause of these defects I was getting in my video, which is repeatedly using and erasing the same media over and over again eventually develops defects like this.